Hence, Ghana must follow suit to reap the needed dividends.
Star News is coming.
Servicing will amount to 280 billion cedis, and this comprises of 150 billion for domestic debt and 130 billion in external debt servicing. Our catastrophic debt position has also severely impacted infrastructural projects that should have been completed. Currently, there are 55 stalled projects due to the default of debt and subsequent restructuring, with a total value of $2.95 billion not disbursed. The stalling of these projects is expected to result in a cost overrun of about 15 billion cedis. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding this gloomy background, I remain committed to leading this government and taking every necessary step to reset our economy, getting things back on track, and working with the good people of our country to build the Ghana we want. We are doubling our efforts to complete all outstanding structural reforms. Through the budget, we will implement corrective measures to restore fiscal discipline and debt sustainability.
Excellency John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana. We can all listen to some of the highlights of the opening ceremony.
In the anniversary of our political independence, Ghana remains an economic domination and servitude, and a poor, highly and unsustainably indebted country. Unemployment, particularly youth unemployment, has become widespread in the security risk. While Ghana is the only country in sub-Saharan Africa that depends most on food imports to feed its people. Our manufacturing sector has collapsed, while hardship is pervasive. And we know why we are where we are today, Your Excellency and the President. Today, Ghana is characterized by a political mindset motivated by power to loot state coffers for personal gain, selfishness, arrogance, and impunity by political leaders and public officers. A party-captured political system where the party in opposition chooses to sit on the fence and does everything, even including mislead the people to undermine every effort to develop the country. There is no longer love for country. Economic mismanagement, macro instability, a macroeconomic impediment to economic transformation, pervasive institutionalized corruption, breathing greed and graft, poor governance driven by weak compromised state institutions, maximum government with minimum governance.
Now speaking at the engagement, Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen raised alarms over the dire financial situation of the country's state-owned enterprises. Listen.
All state-owned enterprises are in the red. Almost all of them are in the red. From the Electricity Company of Ghana to the Agricultural Development Bank, almost all of them are in the red. In fact, beginning from the year 2021, 2022, and 2023, you will see that Cocoa Board posed some profit of 2.2 billion in the year 2023. But Your Excellency, this is artificial profit. This profit is because they failed to service their debt because of the debt suspension. And so all the cocoa bills that were due at the time, they failed to pay because of debt suspension. Subsequently, this debt still exists, and so we will need to take action to restructure most of the state-owned enterprises.
StarrToday, first, fast, and credible.
So you just heard excerpts from the National Economic Forum Day 1. Today that was the opening ceremony. The President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, made a few remarks on the state of the economy. As well, the chairperson for the forum, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, as well, raised concerns about our food imports as a country, raised concerns about how best we can raise matters to make our economy look good. The finance minister and the person of Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen as well raised a very alarming concern, largely looking at state-owned enterprises and their profitability. The finance ministry has over time had to provide on-lending facilities to these state-owned enterprises. They have been riddled with debts. If you're looking at ECG, and it's not the only state-owned enterprise with a huge debt. If you look at reports from the State's Interest Governance Authority, that's SIGA, for each year on, you'd see details in that particular report telling us largely that state-owned enterprises are not doing so well. It is one that has many people reflecting on whether it's leadership or whether or not. Last week I had an engagement with Professor Gachi, and he was raising the issue about whether or not we as a nation would want to keep on with our interest in some of these state-owned enterprises. So a conversation has come up largely about how best to manage the state-owned enterprises. On social media, the conversation is really about tying performance to remuneration. People have had cause to question the kind of remuneration we are given to persons at the helm of affairs of these state-owned enterprises, questioning the allowances they are getting, their basic salary, among other things, saying that if the state-owned enterprise is poorly performing, then why are we paying them such hefty funds? Economists, business analysts, and state actors have had cause to raise the same concern. But largely after this National Economic Forum, we do understand that some incorporations will be made into the budget to be read on March 11, 2025, where we are hoping that the inputs that were shared at the National Economic Dialogue, which is happening started today or run through to tomorrow, we're hoping that the inputs will be made indeed into the budget, and we'll know the way forward for some of these things that there has been concerns raised on. We'll be speaking shortly to Professor Patrick Esuming. He is with the University of Ghana Business School. But before we have the conversation with Professor Patrick Esuming, we'll speak to George Dumfe on this particular developments we are witnessing on our economy. Good evening, sir, and welcome to the bulletin.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Doc, many thanks for your time this evening. The highlights of the National Economic Dialogue, as we have seen the launch, the opening ceremony happening today, and I mean what we are getting out of the dialogue. What is your impression of it so far?
My brother, let me say very good evening, and let me also send our greetings to and my colleague Patrick. My brother, yeah, it is very, very important that as individuals as a country, if you don't sit down to look back to what you and look at what is happening today and plan what to do tomorrow, you always fail. And so it is not bad. Figure always planning, especially when we have troubles and challenges. I remember Barredo, the late Barredo, when he was finance minister, initiated a move like this. He was looking at Ghana at 100. That is the year 2067. What will be Ghana? And he put together a team. They did very well, coming out to tell us really what since 1957 and how do we address those challenges in order to get to where we want to be. NDC to power, that policy wasn't. It came to power. They also came up with what they call Ghana at 40. And these two developments, see anything much different, except that one was in
Doc, if you can position yourself well for us so that we can get some clarity in your voice. We're having some break in the lines there.
Sorry, is it okay?
Yes, this is much better now. Please proceed.
So later on, when we had a crisis, I'm referring to 2014-2015 economic crisis, that later in April we subscribed to an IMF credit facility before also the new talking about John who was vice president, later became president. Now also went to Senche to plan the way out. And the Senche one, I'm sure it wasn't a long-term policy. It was just looking at, because when you are implementing a long-term policy, it is important that when you have problem, you try to look at what you can do immediately to address the problem. And so that was what the situation has been. Everybody became president, and quite a number of economic, committees coming together to also tell us what we should do. But importantly, the one that I want to make specific reference to is the one that was put together December 2023, and that one was to address the current economic challenges. We all know why we are here, significantly because of the COVID and also the Russia-Ukrainian war. And clearly, we saw we didn't have enough shock. We were so much affected. And so I quite remember they put together a team. The economic team was headed by I was a member of that committee. We met at Windsor Hotel. And so our task was to look at what was happening to the Ghanaian economy, and before the COVID, and even after the COVID and Russia-Ukrainian war, why we were not able to move smoothly, and things got to where it was. And so, given what we have and what we have been doing, how can we move forward to make our economy self-sustaining, to make our economy resilient and robust enough so that in future, if there will ever be anything like what happened in 2022, we would not be affected as much as we were affected. Yeah, and this document became ready. Just a minute for me to finish it. This document became ready somewhere June last year, and it was presented by the late Dr. Mensa Abrampa. And that document was, at that time they were in the campaign mood and they had to do some other things, for them to, as it were, empower. We see that being implemented. And so when the new government came, I was thinking that this one that we spent time at Anissa, it was all encompassing. We invited people from all walks of life. It wasn't political. And so I saw so many people from both sides of the political parties being part of this show. And so if that document is there, I'm wondering why we have to waste public money and resources to put together another one. And my brother, I can tell you what is coming. It doesn't matter how beautiful it will look. It will not be too different from the one that we did that was completed last year. So I was thinking that instead of getting people to go and draw another one, maybe they could have, the cabinet, at the cabinet level, or even at the ministerial level, they could have reviewed what has already been completed. So we move forward with development, because every day we have to go back, plan, and then we put it somewhere, then we plan when anything happens. We are not moving forward, and it appears that we love doing so much politics than getting things done to push this country where we want it to go, my brother.
You are a development economist, and this document you reference, I have not seen it, I have no chance on it, so I'm not able to readily speak on it. But from what we do understand from the ongoing national economic dialogue, what we do understand is that the president is on record to say that whatever discussions has been done, whatever document, whatever policy that will come out from the national economic dialogue, we are being told that it would see some considerable influence on the budget that will be presented on March 11. You have said that national development is not an event, it doesn't rest, but there is a firm commitment from a president, from his finance minister, saying that whatever we are going to discuss at this particular dialogue, we are inputting it in the budget and we are taking a step from there. Is that not enough assurance for you?
No, I don't have so much problem with what they are going to do, especially when I look at the caliber of people they have put together. I don't have much problem. My worry have been always planning. That has been my worry. And I was looking at what we did. Maybe you want to contact National Development Planning Commission, and they will talk a lot about this document that I'm talking about. So I'm just asking. So all the money that the state spent to get this, document, is it going to be thrown away? That's my worry. Otherwise, I don't have much problem. Again, if you say whatever that is going to come from here is going to be passed, the budget is going to be read a few days from today. And so, yes, it is possible to identify one or two issues that will be part of the budget. But I'm not too convinced that maybe, I'm just hoping that they are not going to push them to see what they already put in the budget, because most of the things that we find in the budget, those are the things that we have heard from the finance minister, from the president during his State of Nations address. You could clearly see how the budget is going to be. The fiscal policy for this year is going to be like. And so, yes, I will not doubt it. Yeah, but my worry had always been that we plan, we don't implement. So this time around, if we are going to need to, and rather we are going to implement it, then that addresses the problem that I am talking about.
Essentially, no talk shop. We are looking at solving the country's problems. But Doc, looking at where we have come from as a nation, this whole argument, and you make the same argument that our nation suffered losses greatly, and we were leveraging on COVID-19 and looking at the ongoing conflict in Russia and in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. The points where as a country we are still relying on COVID-19 as basis for where we are, the economic quagmire we are faced with, is this still valid? Because for what we know from data, for COVID, indeed, whatever resources the government needed for national development that they lost through the pandemic, there was funding from a number of avenues, from the World Bank, among others, to support us and cushion us throughout that particular period. So what then is the case for reliance on COVID as the reason why we got where we are as a country? Inflation numbers bad, businesses are not doing well, banks are suffering, non-performing loans are not exactly coming down. There's so much to worry about in the economy. A currency is not doing so well, it's not gaining some percentage points against the US dollar, but it's done terribly. So what then really is the reliance, if we are looking at data to see that, well, COVID is the reason why we are where we are?
My brother, if anybody tells you that Ghana is where we are because of COVID, the person is not trying to be objective and truthful. I say so. Our economy from 1957 to date has always been struggling, talking about non-performing loans and all that. COVID, it has always been with us. That was why, if you look at the document when we had to go to subscribe to, this facility in April 2015, one of the things they talked about was the financial sector that was at the time having a lot of problems, including the banks, and that was why we had to deepen the law, financial management, the new Financial Management Act, and through that, some licenses of some banks were revoked and all that to bring sanity into that environment. And so I don't think anybody who says Ghana has a problem, for example, the official unemployment rate that was 5%, 2016, it's now 3%, I should say. And so, issue, and I have always said that if you use the official unemployment rate, it makes Ghana look good. It doesn't reflect the reality. So recently, when Bank of Ghana relaxed that condition of searching and then use the broader measure, to estimate the unemployment, we saw it was very high, almost about 14% or so. And this has always been with us. It's not COVID that has brought about this. But the few things that we think COVID brought about, you mentioned inflation. And let me quickly say that inflation was 9.4% at the time President Mills unfortunately died and President Mahama had to take over.
Right.
By the end of 2016, it has gone up to 15.4. And when it went there because we had a lot of problem with rainfall. The rainfall pattern was really bad, and our agricultural sector since 1957 had been depending so much on rainfall. We are not innovating. We keep on doing the same old things. And so when we didn't have much rain, it affected crop production. And not that alone, Akusumbo affected energy and production as well. So doom and all of that together push inflation to 15.4. But we saw it came down. So During that period, this is why inflation jumped to what happened 2014-2015. But it dropped before the COVID, 7.6 September 2019. Inflation was 7.6, and that was the lowest since 2000, since March 1992. But as soon as COVID came, inflation went up. So you cannot also underestimate the adverse consequences of the COVID on the economy. Inflation went up. By January 2022, inflation had jumped to 13.6. You know, up from the 7.6 it was in September 2019. It jumped to 13.6. And we all thought that was high, but we didn't know worst of it was going to happen at the end when it jumped to 54. But why did we get there? We got there because at that time, Bank of Ghana had raised a total reserve of 9.9 billion that was being used to manage our city. You know, our inflation, our exchange regime is all managing regime. And so even though demand and supply for the foreign currencies will determine the value of the local currency, Bank of Ghana would intermittently enter the market to supply dollars to show up the value of the city. And so if you don't have, you can give. Other bank had a lot, 9.9 billion. But as soon as COVID crisis started, number one, a barrel of crude oil that was being sold at $72 quickly jumped to $121. And that clearly affected everybody because this is at exorbitant prices. The BBC is using $260 million importing oil every month. But after COVID, it increased, after Russia-Ukrainian crisis, because of the increases, it went up to 400, and that extra 150 million. Where were they taking this from every month? From this country. And so, a lot of pressure on our city. Not that alone. U.S. experienced inflation the highest in 40 years. Germany, the highest in 70 years. And so you were going to buy from these countries. Prices of goods and services have gone up over there. And so if you were supposed to buy with $1, you were going to use the same thing you were buying for, $1. And you have to take that money from here. So that also affected the city. So even though at the beginning of the year, $1 was going for 6 cities, 20 pesos. By October, we were exchanging 17 cities for $1. And because of that, imported goods, prices for imported goods escalated. Not only that, even the locally produced one also had to go up because they were also using transport. And so clearly, you don't need anybody to tell you that COVID, affected the economy so much. And so when the Russia-Ukrainian war, affected the economy so much. When I'm talking, I make references to that. But the long problems with debt management has been a problem with Ghana. Our recording huge has been, our entity, all of our economy not creating jobs, it has been our identity. Those things, I don't expect any person to attribute them to what happened on the global market or what happened because of the COVID and then Russia, Ukrainian war. What I'm trying to say is about the prices of goods and services that went up. Even now, it has been contained to 23. It's still not easy, so we cannot stand those things. So when we are talking, let's not box everything together. We need to, as it were, segregate and find out what impacted on what, so that we are able to get the story very well.
Are we picking your final thoughts and comments on the whole national economic dialogue and what you'd envisage as tomorrow they head into the final phases of it? But on the state-owned enterprises and the debts that they owe. Cocoa Board in 2023, the only reason why we saw apparent profitability is because they were not paying their debts, and that's when you could see that they were actually profitable. But you look at a table and you look at the reports from SIGA, it's all in negatives. We are running state-owned enterprises and joint venture corporations and our joint interest in some companies, and it's not giving the state any benefits whatsoever. Is it about time? And I'm asking you again because you are a development economist and studied so much about this terrain. Is it about time that we offloaded a number of these state-owned enterprises and even these joint venture corporations?
I recently asked the same question you are asking, especially with the energy sector debt that has been hanging around. President Kufuor left over 950 something million, And then when NDC came to power, they complained so much about that energy sector that it was so high. But before they left, in the words of the current Minister for Energy, Honorable John Jinapo, he said they left $2.1 billion debt, to suggest that the less than 1 billion they came to meet, they added on. Indeed, John Peter Anewu had also said that they actually left $2.5 billion. Today we are being told by the same John Jinapo that the energy sector debt has gone up to 3.1 billion, to suggest that even though when an MPP came and they complained, they have also added on. So clearly, and now recently our president was also lamenting, and so clearly each of them doesn't have a solution. When any of them comes, they add on to the debt. This cocoa sector debt, cocoa board, all those things have been hanging around our necks for so long, and we do politics with it. So when Party A comes, they will announce what they have come to meet, and create the impression that the people they have just inherited the economy from did so badly. Only for them to add on, and it has been on and on. So it means that these state-owned agencies are not efficient. They are not efficient. So if they are not efficient, how do we get them to be efficient? Isn't it that it's also because of the politics? Look at the board of directors. Now, if you don't belong to a political party, you will never become a board member for any of these state-owned enterprises. But that shouldn't have been the case. We have experts who have been doing research at the University of Ghana and other universities across. We have very good people, and each of them they all have their various expertise. So if it is about energy, we have people who have researched a lot and they are so good. If you come to power and you need board, these are the people you should use. But no, you will go and use your political people, and when the board meets, it becomes a political meeting, because these people, number one, are not experts. So they are being rewarded because they help the party to win power. And so when they go there, because they don't even understand what the CEO and other people are doing, the management is doing, the only thing for them is to engage in politics. And so most of their discussions end up being party politics. They discuss and then they end it there. So nothing effectively is going on. So we need to look back and see how do we constitute this to make them very efficient. My brother, I'll tell you that we can advertise. The state can manage it efficient if we are very serious and we get very good managers. Not because the person belongs to party A or party B, but the person has that expertise. If we are intentional about that and we recruit people for the case to be CEOs and then pick very good people for the boss, and then we can go far. But if it happens that once I come to power, I have to constitute the boss and bring my party people, some of which, some of them, excuse my language, do not know right from what's about the operation of that particular entity, then we will be where we are, another.
Dr. George Donfair, thank you so much. But you didn't wrap up on your expectations as the
No, my expectations are that they would help, because the biggest issue with our economy is the rare sector. So the agricultural sector, the manufacturing, and that's where we can create more jobs for our people. So I want them to advise our president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, to now. In fact, he had underscored quite a number of things that I think would help. One thing that maybe on is the agro industry. He has now added that one to the traditional food industry. What that is going to happen is that if we're able to go ahead with it, it's going to create market for farmers. And that will make farming attractive, because anytime you do anything, somebody will be at the farm gate to buy, and they will also process it. If they be processing, what is going to happen is that would also cut import. And when import goes down, CD becomes stabilized. Why do we need dollars? We need dollars to go and import toothpaste to come in and import vapors. But if you are producing all those things here, then we wouldn't need as $1 that we are demanding today. And that is how we will perpetually as it were, restore the value or sustain the value of the city. And so I want them, I'm expecting them to talk more about this agro processing and also what President Akufo-Addo started to do. I'm talking about one district, one factory. They need to sit. I'm expecting them to make a word about that. How we can move ahead with this. We need to build more factories to at least produce most of what we consume, so that we wouldn't rely so much on the external market. In an event that anything that happened in 2022 should happen again, I'm sure if we are able to do that, we would have built enough buffers and shock absorbers to stay afloat, my brother.
Josh Domfe, thank you so much for speaking with us here on StarrToday.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Josh Domfe is a development economist.
StarrToday, first, fast, and credible.
Back to the National Economic Dialogue and focus on the cocoa sector, which has really become a topical issue in recent times. The Minister for Finance, Dr. Kasiel Atuba-Forson, has once again painted a gloomy picture of the country's cocoa sector, which he describes as posing an elevated fiscal risk. According to him, cocoa production has declined nearly 50% in the last 5 years. He also revealed that Ghana lost over $400 million in rollover contracts. That figure is expected to even shoot up to $500 million this year. Listen.
Also poses a significant fiscal risk. Declining cocoa production with record high prices. Cocoa production has dropped nearly 50% over the past 3 years. The 2023-2024 crop season, Cocoa Board would not be able to supply 330,000 tons of cocoa contracts. Existing forward sales contracts locked in lower prices than current market rates. Revenue losses of $840 million for both Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian farmer as a result of what is happening at Ghana Cocoa Board. Additionally, about $500 million losses for rollover contract was achieved in the last year. The market prices and differentials is what aids smuggling. Large gap between market price and farmers' payment encourage smuggling and threatened long-term sustainability. This implies that for every ton of cocoa delivered this year, in fulfillment of the rollover contract, Ghana Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian farmer would lose $4,000 per ton in revenue. No wonder we are unable to offer the cocoa farmer the right price, because every ton delivered because of the rollover contract, $4,000 has been lost. And so the government is unable to offer enough for the cocoa farmer. And this is what is actually leading to the smuggling of cocoa beans to our neighboring countries, Togo and Ivory Coast. Cocoa Board's extra budgetary spending is also a major fiscal risk. Total debt at the Ghana Cocoa Board is $32.5 billion, of which $9.7 billion is due to be paid at the end of September 2025, this year. Outstanding cocoa road contracts reached $21 billion, in fact $1.3 billion in the year 2024, of which only $4.4 billion accounted for in Cocoa Board financial statements. Supplier arrests is difficult to quantify because of lack of transparency, and it has become a major concern to industries. Excellency, the elephant in the room. SOEs and joint.
So there you just had the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiel Atuba-Forson, lamenting the state of our cocoa sector. We will stay on this subject a little while, and we're joined in the studio by the President of Concerned Cocoa Farmers Association, Nana Obuadi Buntu II. Good evening, Nana.
Pleasant one.
Is everything well with you?
Yeah, everything is when you talk about being well, I don't know how you will take it, but then I'm alive, so I give thanks to the Almighty, but things are not well as maybe you might see it in a way.
So largely you are agreeing and aligning to what the Finance Minister said, Dr. Kasiel Atuba-Forson, about how poor the cocoa sector is performing.
Yeah, well, it's Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana, which comprises with cocoa, because we are the major stakeholder when it comes to the advocacy for the cocoa sector. We are the only farm-based organization that true we Ghana even have cocoa as at now. If it is not we, like we don't even have a single cocoa bean in the country, all because of the identification of community challenges that we've done through across the country, which now other sectors can even boast of, or maybe can even say that we have this and that, like the way my brother at the force and even is talking about how poor maybe the sector has been into. Looking at what is happening now, I can boldly tell you that Ghana, when they talk about cocoa sector, it is state of an emergency in a way, all because nobody cares of Ghana cocoa production in the country, not even Parliament, because there's no single day that you've had Parliament arguing seriously about our production of cocoa.
Wouldn't you say that's a bit unfair to parliamentarians, because largely when the issues of Galamsey came up and about how cocoa farmers are given out their farms allegedly to some of these illegal miners, there were concerns from Parliament.
So
it was largely debated.
Well, maybe they debated for how long? Compare the cocoa distraction or the Galamsey issue with the LGBTQ that it has become, let's say, a chewing stick on some part of some of the people that they talk about it each and every day. They dream about them. Have you heard the Parliament, Ghana Parliament, talking about this cocoa stuff? They are not doing it. They've put in wax in their ear. They don't even care of our production of the cocoa, because one, we have been seriously advocating to save our economy. It is not Concerned Farmers. Like, Ghana cannot even boast of, even with the next season, talking about we even have a cocoa somewhere that we are going to do it. Why am I saying this? Because when there were destruction of the cocoa plantation in this country, there was nobody, and even the security sector or the security agency were even afraid just even to get close. Because as I'm talking to you, there are people within the forest sector that they are even battling seriously with what? With the security people. But with the Concerned Farmers know how to handle it. That is why we're able to handle some of the situation now. We even have some of the cocoa within there. So the government of the day inherit a sector in a way that the destruction, the harm has already been done, though during their 10 some years back, they were doing this kind of Galamsey and other things. But then when they came back, things are not as it is. But now it is the solution. It is not about playing games who does this and this and that. We have a solution in a way to double up our cocoa production, so that at the end of the day, by 3 years' time, Ghana will be taking the lead of cocoa production in West Africa and even the world. If really the body of Cocoa Board and government, it is ready to work hand in hand with us, because at the end, for some years back, we have been doing this thing on our own. If I say on our own, we have been selling brooms and other things to facilitate some of our programs around without any support from government and other things. I remember when Dr. Friakoto was in power, or was the Agric Minister, there was a report that we did for him, and quickly he responded it. That saved the number of cocoa that we even have in the Western North. Like by now, we don't even have a single bin of cocoa. When you go to a place like Western region, Bompieso, Winnie Valley area, a large of cocoa farm have been destroyed. I have videos around, I have evidence to prove what I'm saying, that others are even cutting down their cocoa trees for rubber plantation, all because they see the rubber plantation being more productive than the cocoa. Because the cocoa board, or let's say the sector, put wax in their ears to listen to their voice. So at the end of the day, they thought that, no, listen, how can I be doing cocoa for 25 years without even a building, without even boast of even taking my kid to school? And this Kojo Redu just came within 3 years, and now Kojo Redu San is in University of Ghana, is University of, how do you call it, Kumasi, another thing, that is tech. You know, so this is a very big challenge, because every cocoa farmer, and those that they own the cocoa farm now, are aged. They are old people, and their dream and aspiration is to do what? To put up a building, to build a house. And they are not being able to do so, but those that came, quickly they are doing it. So it has been a real challenge. We are on the ground and we know the situation. And then another major problem is the stakeholder engagement is a problem, because I heard the farmers, when I was at Western Region, I heard some of the farmers complaining that Cocoa Board came out with input, or let's say machinery for them that they can use for pruning and other things. But Cocoa Board gave them a wrong equipment for them to use. So this means that the engagement with the farmers and then Cocoa Board, or maybe with the government, there's a gap within there, which maybe they are getting in touch with the wrong people to deal with. And with us, we have the fact, we have the evidence, we have the proof to show the government. I remember the past government, I called on the former president just to have a look of some of the videos of our findings that we have done, which will help the industry. But at the end of the day, those that will push the whole thing just also let us down. So there's a new government. What we are trying to say is we have the power, we have the authority to make sure that we double up the production of this cocoa, whatever that is happening. But
you have the ability to stem the tide and ensure that the 50% decline would even be much better, we will not suffer losses. That's what you're saying, right?
We are going to hit 100%.
100% production.
Exactly.
Optimal production. But in your submission, you made reference to the welfare of cocoa farmers. You made mention of how someone just does something 3 years, children are somewhere, and then the cocoa farmer works for 25 years. I mean, in the previous governments, they launched the cocoa pension scheme for farmers. Was it not adequate? Was it a wrong move? You speak about the inputs and the machinery. Could there have been more that could be done to ensure that farmers get a needed inputs to ensure that they produce at optimal levels? Then there is the issue of smuggling, even that the pricing of cocoa beans, the value per bag is not so good in the country that it would rather smuggle through illegal means and take the beans somewhere and sell somewhere and get much value for money. There's been a whole debate about which government has increased the price of cocoa per bag the most for cocoa farmers.
Yeah, this don't have to be an argument for people to talk about it. I mean, when we talk about, you see, farming is not about politics. The moment you bring politics with farming, that opened the space for the political farmers to put in, you know. And you talk about smuggling and other things. The genesis of Ghana cocoa is based on smuggling. So smuggling is not going to stop today and tomorrow, but then with the concerned farmers, you have a way out.
You say the genesis of smuggling is not going to stop in the cocoa sector. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, what I mean is the genesis of Ghana cocoa based on smuggling. Teta Kwashi smuggling the cocoa from Fernando Po to Ghana. That is the story.
Maybe smuggling is not exactly the word.
No, you went to school, you read it.
Yeah, and he got some beans into the country.
Whether he got the beans or not, there was a smuggling, right? So there's a way out. That is why we have a strong and a very powerful advocacy organization that call himself the Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana, that we are dealing with this situation.
And you have the blueprint to change the fortunes of the country.
We do have it. We do have it. We've done it before. That is why I'm saying it now, that even if it's not we, like I'm saying that we will not even have the cocoa that we are even having it now, because we talked to some of the farmers that there's going to be a turnover. There's a future for Ghana cocoa. So they dare not destroy their cocoa trees, or they don't have to be an absentee farmers. The past government did well, but then by giving, the farmers a space of 2 years by introducing the weeding gangs for them to weed our cocoa for us for 2 years, and then the 1 year we will manage it, and then we'll be doing what? Harvesting it for money. But at the end of the day, that approach also was a lazy approach also for some of the farmers in a way, because that was, I'm saying that there wasn't like an engagement. You see, the problem that we have in this country is farmers have been left out. Farmers are not part of the policy making implementation of this country. Everything concerning agriculture in this country, the real people are not part of it. But when you talk about football, GFA is part of it. When you talk about transport, the GPR2 is part of it. But what about the farmers? We have an organization that is the apex body of all farmers and fishermen in this country. You can't do anything concerning agriculture without them. But let us ask. This government, it is the government that set up or brought up all this kind of thing. The GPRTU, the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen, is in the PNDC law. That is in our constitution. And most of them, or these 16 regions, all the regional chairmen serve under the Lands Commission. So it means that farmers have a role to play. So why is it that when it comes to policy making, when it comes to budgetary, state of the nation address, or maybe any state function and other things, farmers are being left out? That is why our agriculture sector is being fading out, and it will continue to fade out.
Yeah, but when you say farmers are being left out, you'd have to provide us with some clarity. I understand the bit of the policy where behind the table, I mean around the table, you are probably not invited. That stands to be corrected, because who knows, perhaps there's an association that has been invited. But if you say that you are being left out, it beggars belief, because over time, for many young people and for many indigents and citizens of this country, we know 26th, Boxing Day whatsoever, there is also a day for farmers. We celebrate farmers nationwide. So the celebration is not adequate for you.
But the farmers are not part of the celebration.
How exactly?
Farmers are not being invited. When we try to go this side, it will bring a whole lot of problems and others to put at the bar. Because one...
We try to understand why you say farmers are being left out.
They've left out because one, even when it is Farmers' Day, the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen, which I am their spokesperson, are not even invited. They were supposed to serve, or they are even on the board with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. They deleted them.
Wait, how long has this been going on? Is it recent?
It is the past government. When the past government was there, farmers were in part of most of the activities.
For the entirety of the 8 years of their reign?
Yes, I'm telling you, because I am the spokesperson of Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen, and then the president of the Concerned Farmers Association of Ghana, and I'm saying this because I know what I'm talking about. There was a coordinator that was within the Ministry of Agric, who was saying that they would just come and walk around. We deleted their names out of it. And how can you do this? And it's the same Ministry of Agric, 1993, put up a whole letter that farmers, now there's a new born of an association, that is the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen, and they are an embodiment of all farmers and fishermen in this country. You can't do any activity without them. Let me ask you this. Can Ministry of Sports organize a league without GFA?
Very impossible.
Thank you. So how come we have the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen, and then we organize a farmers up and coming, and our security are just a toothless bulldog? Because one, how can you tell me that Galamseyers, a group of people, now we are encouraging them in a way that we have rebels in this country? Because the Galamseyers now have 10 rebels. Some of them have guns. Kofi Wayo is my witness. Because I remember we went to Ayamfori. One of them nearly shot me. If it wasn't Kofi Wayo that put up a gun from his pocket just to give a warning shot, like I'll be dead by now. But let me tell you this, my brother. What we are doing is on a very nice and a good approach. You can't get to the field with guns and other things. What we are doing is an engagement with the people. You are telling the people not to do the Galamsey. What space have you given them? When the past government, and now the Danko Akufo-Addo said they should place ban on Galamsey, with the consent, there's an evidence on that. You can ask Honorable Feshtesowa, MP for Dunkwao. I called him that, Honorable, I mean your constituency is full of Galamsey. We've now organized the young people, and now they are saying that they want to get into farming. I said, brilliant. I even have a program like that just to help my people. And he did that. I was at, how do you call it, Agyabeng. We did the same thing. But there was nothing like support from the government. We used our own resources, sow brooms and other things, gave these young people piglet and sometimes goat and other things just to start life on their own.
So it's inadequate that government launches all this Galam Stop, Operation Holtz and all of those things without giving a clear blueprint as to how best to ensure that those youth and those persons involved in Galamsey are not, for lack of a better word, recidivism, out of their crimes and out of their wrongs and being so lost in that particular area, being brought up by government puts in place nothing at all.
There's not, when you look at the money that was placed for this Galamsey fight, you know, that money alone can even help these young people for them to get out from the forest, you know. And I'm so surprised that we have the EPA, we have the police, they're supposed to protect lives and property. We have the military, they're supposed also to protect the state and other things. And what are they doing? then it means they are the people, we have people that they are doing it. We got into some extent that the approach that we got was there are big men behind this scene, so we should stay back or back off. Do you get it? And you see, we live in a country that when you come out with the truth, you become an enemy for the state. So they don't like you people that you are telling the truth. And there's an evidence here. That's what I'm saying. If the president is willing, I will show the president, but not the minister or not anybody, because they are not ready.
But there's a new minister.
What I'm saying is, I don't believe with anybody. I believe in the president. And if the president watch this, it will go well. Because we have ministers all over. But at the end of the day, they disappointed Nekufado. Because the Nekufado's concept or the aim was to fight this Galamsey, the lives of Abu Jinapos and other things. What happened? But then let me use this your platform to acknowledge the CEO of Minerals Commission, Mr. Isi, Martin Isi, did a very good job at that time. He supported us. But apart from that, those within the authority, what did they do? So there's the new administration, that is John Dramani Mahama's administration. One, there's ongoing Galamsey small somewhere that others are doing. And what we are saying today is we can stop this thing. We can double up production all because we have the power and we have the ways and means to make sure that the farmers will double up, will get into the field to do. And then also, this young, we have these free SHS. When they complete school and they come, what are they going to do? Look at the number of people that they will come back home. When you check this Galamsey and other things, we have these young guys that from secondary school, they just move to the field, and then at the end of the day, they are just doing this kind of Galamsey issue. They are doing it. Others also, they are foreigners, you know. So we have what it takes to make sure that this Galamsey issue and other things is being stopped. And at the same time, we double up the production. Our main focus is double up the production because we have the means to do that. But it is all about the government. If the president is willing and is open, we have the videos, we have the evidence, we have the blueprint to show the president and Mr. President, this is the way to go. So that by next 2 months, we start the ball rolling. And at the end of the day, by the next 3 years, the Ghana will be leading the cocoa production across the world. And we have that, and we can do it. I'm telling you, we can do it. This is not a matter of seeing the minister or doing this and that. You know where I'm coming from? I'm from the village. You move all the way from the village and then you come, and they will say the minister is not around. You want to book an appointment, they say, no, you can't do this and that. And you see, from there to the place, either in and out alone, I can raise money to buy a piglet for somebody that is doing a Galamsey to start business, or to give that money to somebody to start a business. You see, that is why I'm saying that we are not ready. If the Ministry of Agriculture is ready to meet us, fine, but then we have what it takes for the president to see, because he is the final authority and he's the person that we are looking up to, because he is against Galamsey. His dream is to make sure that Ghana take the lead of cocoa production in this country, because the cocoa is the backbone of our economy.
Most certainly, I do hope the president is listening to you, Nana Obwadia Boatimbuns II. Most certainly, too, I do hope Eric Opoku, John Dumelo, and Dr. Peter Otukono are listening, and then we're hopeful that this gloomy picture that Dr. Cassiel Atoforson has painted about the cocoa production levels in this country, they'll give you a lesson here, and then we have a better tomorrow for the country.
Yeah, sure, because I remember when I brought the expired cocoa fertilizer. At that time, they were the minority. I sent it to Parliament, and then we made a press conference out of it, right? This is a critical situation. We are just giving them within 2 weeks. Yes. Okay. 2 weeks is even too much, you know, because the way it is going, they say cocoa is the backbone of our economy, but it seems others have put in wax in their ears. What we are saying is we can double up, we'll make sure this thing goes around, because we have somebody like Owusu Ansah work at the cocoa board. He has done well. He's one of the young men that saved the cocoa production also within the Western North. When we talk about SPD, we have Samuel Boating, who is also very good. We have a very good, nice team that we can make sure that we double up production, and Ghana will not be the same. But the whole thing is our security agency have to wake up, because we, the farmers, are not happy the way the security people are handling issues. As I'm speaking to you, there was one young man that has shot dead But the security agencies in this country are covering up the whole situation. The security agencies are not doing it. The family want justice. They are not bringing it out. Go to Esikasu in the eastern region. It's a cocoa growing area. They've destroyed all cocoa around the place. And now it is a rubber plantation. The little farm that is being left, that the farmers they have been eating on it, they are winning sun. And then they are bringing land gas and other things, and then they are killing people. And police are doing nothing about this situation. So I think the police have to be up and coming.
And up and doing, and they waking up. You're giving government 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
To meet you or to stop Galamsey or to do what exactly?
As for the Galamsey, the president have to stop it today that I'm speaking.
Then the 2 weeks time frame.
The 2 weeks time is about the cocoa. Double up. If they refuse, we will stay back.
And they doubling up means they meeting you?
Well, I said it's a video. There's a blueprint to follow.
Okay.
And it's only the president, nobody, not the CEO, nobody. It is the president.
So you have a plan, and you want to meet the president within the next 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And that would indicate the seriousness of the government in ramping up cocoa production.
Exactly.
Most certainly, we do hope the president is listening. But thank you so much for speaking with us, Nana Obuadie Boateng Bunsu II. He is the president for the Concerned Farmers Association, as well the spokesperson for the Ghana National Association of Farmers and Fishermen. Thank you so much for joining us in studio here. You're still listening to StarrToday here on your Simply the Best Star 103.5 FM. Still on some economic stories. The minority in parliament is shredded into President Mahama's State of the Nation address, asking the president to stop complaining and find money to service the country's debt. President Mahama, in his maiden address to Parliament, painted a picture of a monumental economic mess left by the Nana Addo Dankwa administration. He, however, assured the nation of his readiness to fix what he terms the broken pieces.
In the next 4 years, our debt servicing will amount to 280 billion cedis, and this comprises of 150 billion for domestic debt and 130 billion in external debt servicing. Our catastrophic debt position has also severely impacted infrastructural projects that should have been completed. Currently, there are 55 stalled projects due to the default of debt and subsequent restructuring, with a total value of $2.95 billion not disbursed. The stalling of these projects is expected to result in a cost overrun of about 15 billion cedis. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding this gloomy background, I remain committed to leading this government and taking every necessary step to reset our economy, getting things back on track, and working with the good people of our country to build the Ghana we want. We are doubling our efforts to complete all outstanding structural reforms. Through the budget, we will implement corrective measures to restore fiscal discipline and debt sustainability.
But in what the minority describes as a true State of the Nation address, former Finance Minister Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam questioned every claim of the president. According to him, the president was selective in his address to paint a picture of a bad economy. The Kanga MP, though, insisted the previous administration left buffers for debt servicing, charged President Mahama to find resources to service the debts he is complaining of, just as the MPP did when it took office.
The nation is that exchange rate stability, which we saw before the end of 2024 and which has continued into the first quarter of this year, is not by any magic from the Mahama government. It is because the Akufo-Addo government left significant levels of international reserves for them. In addressing the issue of buffers created to support expenditure and maturing debt obligations, the president focused on the sinking fund as if it is the only source of buffers. The sinking fund is just one of our buffers. At each point in time, the government designates some accounts for buffer and for purposes of special payments. In the last 8 years, such accounts included the sinking fund, the Eurobond proceeds account, the IMF proceeds account, and the Treasury Main 2 account. For example, the IMF third review disbursement of $360 million was done on 2nd December 2024, but this was kept as buffer, part of which was used to pay coupons amounting to $346 million to Eurobond holders on 3rd January 2025. This was not done from the sinking fund. Similarly, in October 2024, we paid $520 million to our Eurobond holders for the first coupons and other fees. But again, this was not done from the sinking fund. How could we have done these payments if we didn't have buffers? Yet the president thinks that the only buffers we have is the sinking fund. The NPP also left significant amount of buffers, more than 5 billion Ghana cedis from the 2024 revenue collected by GRA in the Treasury Main 2 accounts, which the new government has used. Yet the president failed to talk about it and focus only on the sinking fund. Delays in payments will be compensated for by interest accruing on the amounts at concessional rates ranging between 1% and 3%. This offer applies to all our official bilateral creditors and ECA-backed facilities signed and disbursed before end 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, this provides briefing space for the new government. The NPP is not in government to benefit from this. It's briefing space, significant briefing space for the new government. Yet President Mahama will not talk about that. In addition, the debt service relief from this negotiation stands at $2.8 billion, which the government of Ghana would have paid, but which now stands as savings to the country. Again, President Mahama will not talk about this.
Insisted the debt left behind was lower than what was inherited from the Mahama administration in 2017. He charged government to publish a doomsday timetable, arguing the dreaded days of erratic power supply. Abak.
According to the Ghana Energy Sector Recovery Program, the energy sector was badly managed by President Mahama to the extent that the debts could reach $12 billion in 5 years if nothing was done about it. President Akufo-Addo ensured that this did not happen, and we ended our administration with $2.4 billion debts in the energy sector, less than the $2.5 billion we inherited from President Mahama in 2016, and notwithstanding the fact that President Akufo-Addo kept the lights on. The NPP administration kept the lights on by spending $6.2 billion in the process over 7 years, with 2024 expenditure on energy alone standing at $1.4 billion. It is important to state also that the bulk of the ECG debts the President referenced in his address came from excess capacity payments because of take-or-pay energy contracts signed by President Mahama. These payments could not be reflected in electricity tariffs because PURC allows for only the cost of energy consumed to be in tariffs and not the cost of contracted energy. This is what resulted in the debts. And so we ask, as we often do, now who calls some? President Mahama should have been the last to come talking about energy sector debts, when the bulk of the debts were caused by deals that he signed in his previous administration. Even with these debts from President Mahama's energy deals, Nana Akufo-Addo kept the lights on. We expect the President to do the same. Keep the lights on, Mr. President.
Keep the lights on, they say. The picture they paint of the Nanado left government was one that is full of milk and honey, gold and diamonds, and is contrary to the gloomy picture painted by the President in his address.
Ladies and gentlemen, we, the mighty minority, are ready to do our work. We are ready to do our work to provide truthful information to the Ghanaian people on the affairs of our nation, especially as the government is holding a national economic dialogue, which is intended to whitewash the unfounded and baseless claims of the mismanagement of our economy under the SWAL MPP administration. That is what they are doing there. They are even scaring the people of Ghana further by putting out unaudited outstanding claims on government. And we will expose this mischief at the right time. We believe that these unholy moves by the NDC are intended to buy time to cover for its incompetence in managing the economy and to establish the basis for increasing taxes and introducing new taxes in the 2025 budget statement, even as they are promising to scrap e-levy, COVID levy, and others. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you, does it make sense to scrap e-levy and betting tax and replace them with new taxes on the telecommunication industry? They are bringing back VAT on telecommunication. They are increasing the growth and sustainability levy on the mining industry. And they are bringing back VAT on the financial services and real estate industries. Wow. All these taxes will be passed on to customers, to the Ghanaian people. The people of Ghana should wait for the deception of the NDC government when they present the 2025 budget. Taxes galore, Sakawa. This is how they intend to tax Ghanaians to collect their target of 200 billion Ghana cedis in tax revenues this year. This NDC government accused us, the MPP administration, of overtaxing the people of Ghana, because by the end of 2024, the MPP administration collected 152.9 billion Ghana cedis, and that was 17% tax to GDP ratio, taking it from President Mohammed's 13% in 2016. How do you then turn around to expect to collect 200 billion Ghana cedis in an economy you call a broken economy? Ladies and gentlemen, we, the mighty minority, will join the people of Ghana to resist any attempt to smuggle in new taxes or increase existing taxes. We owe it a duty to hold the government accountable for their promises to the people of Ghana. We can only accommodate scrapping of taxes. We cannot accept new taxes or increase in taxes. Ladies and gentlemen, as a country, we have come a long way, working closely with our key stakeholders, including the IMF, World Bank, the African Development Bank, our bilateral partners, domestic and international investors, and more importantly, the Ghanaian people, who have sacrificed so much to see us get this far. We can assure you all that our partners and most of the people of Ghana are not happy, because the president used his State of the Nation address, in fact, the false State of the Nation address, to reverse the gains made, especially towards building confidence with investors. The president has painted the picture of a country that has been economically mismanaged, when in fact we have turned the corner from what we have all come to know was the worst economic crisis in Ghana following an unprecedented global crisis between 2020 and 2022. Even when they were confronted with a domestic challenge in the form of doomsday, they ran to the IMF to save the economy. How much more a crisis that plagued the entire world, including our country, and in no mean a proportion. What the president has done is like putting a gun on one's head and pulling the trigger. Investors had felt the hope of a resurging economy in Ghana, and were looking forward to the new things the president was bringing to consolidate the gains. The president has effectively told them to go away because the economy is in crisis, contrary to the evidence. The cost of living crisis is a global problem. It's a global problem, and we all know that. But that cannot be used to degrade the entire economy in the face of overwhelming data pointing to the contrary. And in addressing the cost of living crisis, the president himself walked or drove himself to a meeting with leaders of the labor union to assure them he was on top of his job, only to offer them 10% increase in the base pay.
You just heard former Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam over there on what they describe as the true state of the nation in their address as a mighty minority.
StarrToday, first, fast, and credible.
Some other stories now. The Bank of Ghana has suspended its gold for oil policy, an initiative introduced by the previous government citing financial losses. The controversial policy was originally designed to reduce reliance on forex as foreign exchange for fuel imports and stabilize domestic fuel prices. The governor of the central bank, Dr. Johnson Siama, in an interview with Bloomberg, explained that the policy aimed to stabilize the cedi by using gold to pay for oil imports. However, the government will now take over gold purchasing responsibilities through the gold board, which is yet to be established. Now, details of a statement released by Bloomberg on this particular matter. The story developing on the Gold for Oil program is an interview that Bloomberg had with Dr. Johnson Siama, who is the new governor of the central bank. And to quote him verbatim, he says that the Bank of Ghana intends to maintain an appropriate monetary policy stance. That is what Dr. Johnson Siama said in an interview on Friday. According to him, they have had to incur some losses on the Gold for Oil program. Dr. Johnson Siama has his doctorate in economics from the University of St. Martin, and he was speaking to Bloomberg's Ondiro Uganga, and he didn't specify the exact details of the losses that the Bank of Ghana has incurred. But indeed, with the establishment of the gold board, they are hoping that gold purchasing responsibilities that were hitherto under the gold for oil program to ensure that we stabilize fuel prices by way of the imports where we pay with gold instead of using forex. They are hoping that through the gold board, such purchasing responsibilities will be taken over. But what we do understand now is that there is a halt. There is a complete halt to the government's gold for oil program. When it was initially launched, many analysts in the energy sector had cause to question really the real impact of this program on stabilizing fuel prices. But with this particular indication we are getting from the Bank of Ghana governor, it is not just about the stability that many had cause to question about this particular program, but indeed the central bank in itself had to incur some losses by way of the program. We are hoping to have a conversation on this particular development with the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, that is COPEC. But as we await to have this particular conversation, oil marketing companies have begun reducing the prices of petroleum products. This move, which was predicted by the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies and the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, that's COPEC, marks the second consecutive marginal decrease in prices of petrol, diesel, among others. The price adjustments at the pump are attributed to a decline in international petroleum product prices, albeit at a slower rate of cedi depreciation. We'll listen to the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, Dr. Reverson Opong, as he spoke to Starr News on this particular development concerning the very much anticipated decline in fuel prices.
So, in a nutshell, we are predicting a downward movement in the prices of petroleum products in these directions. So we expect to have petrol reduced by 0.6%, diesel by 0.3%, and LPG by 0.3%. We've seen a dip, a very marginal one, of crude oil prices from 76 to $75 per barrel, which actually marked 1.32% decrease in oil, slipping to the new low for the year, as there's a new directive from the U.S. president. There's a slew of conflicting announcements on the trade so far. And similarly, most refined product prices exhibited a downward trend. Petrol price fell by 1.1%, while LPG 1.42%, and diesel recorded rather an increase of 2.4%, making the only product to experience a price rise for this period. And even as we speak today, there is a somewhat shortage of diesel in the market. I think with this downward adjustment at the pump price are in line with the overall decrease in petroleum prices in the international oil market, and also the cedi's performance against the USD.
You just had Dr. Reverson Opong, who is the Chief Executive of the Oil Marketing Companies in Ghana.
StarrToday, first, fast, and credible.
Away from talk about fuel, we're talking education, and here the West Africa Examinations Council, that's WAEC, has officially released all withheld results for the 2024 West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination, known as WASI. The results, initially withheld due to suspected malpractice involving over 10,000 candidates, were made available on February 28, 2025. Following legal intervention and, of course, public pressure. This action comes as well after the National Union of Ghana Students (NUGS) threatened nationwide protests, followed by a court ruling which compelled WAEC to release the results. WAEC's head of public affairs, John Kapi, confirmed that all affected candidates now have access to their results, ensuring they can move forward with their academic plans. We will be joined shortly by the head of public affairs for the West Africa Examinations Council, John Kapi. Mr. Kapi, good evening and welcome to StarrToday.
Good evening and thanks for having me.
We're grateful for your time this evening. 10,000 results finally out there for the students to move forward with their academic journeys. Long in coming, but what did it take WAEC to do this?
Well, as we speak, we've been able to work on all the results of the candidates for the school exam 2024, and everybody has received what they deserve by virtue of our standards.
The history we have had as a country is largely about the suspension of some results due to more practices. About 10,000 WACC results being withheld, and the whole legal battle that we saw, the comments from the public about how this is placing some psychological burdens on students. Going forward, what is the plan for WAEC in dealing with these matters?
Well, first of all, it's important to place a number of things in perspective. Before exams are written, the WAEC goes around, and that's what they call sensitization. We tell every single candidate, every single supervisor, every single invigilator the rules governing the conduct of the examination. We send posters to every school. We send flyers to every single person, informing them about the rules and regulations and what the penalties are. And so if anybody who sits an examination misconducts themselves, this is what the outcome is going to be. The public euphoria or the complaints from the public probably is based on the fact that they have not brought themselves to understand the processes we go through. But then if you try to go with us and understand what we go through, and the fact that we have to, release results to people who have actually worked for it and deserve those results, then you would appreciate what we go through to bring results out for candidates to be able to go wherever they want to go with them.
You rightly mentioned the process that WAEC takes these students through ahead of these exams, and yes, though the more practices game that we see in this country, this 10,000 is quite the hefty one we've seen. Is there perhaps an approach WAEC would be willing to adapt to ensure that it syncs well with these students? Because given what we'd have to witness this past few weeks concerning the withholding of these results, we don't want to see this occasion again. So the forward-looking approach is largely what I'm seeking to get some clarity on. What you plan on doing as an examinations council to stem the tide?
First of all, I think that we've got to understand certain backgrounds to these things that we do. The conduct of examination is a partnership between the Ghana Education Service and WAEC. WAEC does what we call probably collecting the question papers, moderating them, printing, and taking them to the doorsteps of the schools. And all we do is ask the teachers to invigilate for 2 hours, for 3 hours. I don't think that is too much to ask of any teacher with their sort. Unfortunately, what has happened is that maybe, just maybe, because I don't have evidence to prove, some of the teachers may have looked or turned a blind eye to a few things that the candidates were doing that were wrong, and that is what has brought us this far. And so as a council, we are going to send a paper to the Ghana Education Service, going to ask that they call the teachers to order and probably reorient them and make them understand that the job of invigilation is not simply to go and watch over people do the wrong thing, but to ensure that the rules of the examination are adhered to.
John Kapi, thank you so much for speaking with us here on StarrToday.
It's my pleasure.
Grateful. John Kapi is the head of public affairs for the West Africa Examinations Council. To some other stories now, motorists using the Malam interchange will have to endure worsening conditions as the gaps in the bridge expansion joints continue to widen. Although engineers from the Ghana Highway Authority are assessing and evaluating the problem and submitting a budget even for repairs, approval is still pending. Peter Kwawadato has been following up on the situation and filed this report.
A closer look at the structural issues on the Malam Junction interchange reveals that a second layer of asphalting has significantly contributed to the current problem. As a result, heavy vehicular traffic builds up daily on this stretch, creating major inconvenience for regular road users.
So we are pleading upon the road minister to come on our aid to help us to solve this problem. It's all on us.
Our understanding also is that this situation has persisted for years.
It is one house of Grand one to kick I can't be flow this speed, I can't beat me. I be hit also. It is so slow down. Crack and social media out to the cars I can see airport. It's a man when you are my traffic back to passive. Yes, with my
A source at the Ghana Highways Authority confirmed that engineers from the Bridge Maintenance Unit promptly assessed and evaluated the issue. According to the source, a budget for replacing the damaged expansion joints was submitted to the Ministry of Roads and Highways in 2024. However, as of now, approval is still pending. Addressing concerns about the persistent vibrations on the bridge, the source assured that fixing the expansion joints would resolve the issue. Meanwhile, the National Road Safety Authority is cautioning motorists to exercise extreme care when using the interchange.
I'm using your platform to advise all motorist drivers that Malam Junction interchange has developed a little problem, and so please, when you are getting there, you have to slow down as much as possible. Please reduce your speed to the barest minimum so that you will not be taken unawares. Otherwise, you can trip off. You can hit another vehicle. We beg motorists to comply to these directives so that we can save lives, we can save properties.
The Malam interchange was originally designed to ease unbearable traffic congestion in this part of the capital. However, until repairs are approved and completed, motorists will have to navigate the growing inconvenience and safety risks.
Peter Kwadoto's reports read there by Tutua Danso. Let's now take you to the Ashanti region, where the Minister of Roads and Highways, Governs Kwame Agbodza, has assured residents of the Kukukum community in the Ashanti region that the government is taking immediate action to repair the damaged community road bridge, which has been declared unfit for traffic. During a working visit to assess the situation, the road minister acknowledged the challenges faced by the community due to the deteriorating condition of the bridge. He further disclosed that a contractor has been assigned to the project and work is expected to commence by Friday, the 7th of March, 2025.
This situation was reported and picked up since 2018, but we never had a solution. What we have seen here now, I agree with you, we need to completely shut down the bridge to allow the engineers to work with the contractors to quickly remedy the situation. We've gone under the bridge, we've seen some of the terrible situations here. We are also aware that because of the mining issues around the area, sometimes heavy trucks are brought across the bridge, and sometimes instead of driving them on a low bed, they actually offload the equipment and drive them. So of course, if you are driving an excavator with a chain on it, the vibration and other things will make it worse. So when we finish, we will expect that nobody should do that. So now that the regional minister and the regional security council have declared that this bridge is no longer available for traffic, we are handing over the site to a contractor to start work today. We hope by Friday they should be able to mobilize and start doing the thing that they need to do. I wish I could tell them within 2 or 3 months, but I believe that the caliber of the contractor we are talking about, they should be able to do this within the shortest possible time.
The Justice of the Court of Appeal, Her Ladyship Ifiasewa Sare Butri, has questioned the methodologies used in recent surveys that ranked Ghana's judiciary among the least trusted institutions. She acknowledges that trial durations vary and wants Ghanaians to have patience and confidence in the judiciary. She was responding to an Afrobarometer report which indicates that only 35% of Ghanaians are very confident in the country's judicial system. She spoke exclusively on GH1 TV's GH Today.
This situation was reported.
I am all for expanding the jury list and introducing other things for law reform. My personal view of law reform should be dealing with technology routinely. For me, I think we should, for instance, deal with electronic evidence routinely, because policing and law enforcement has become technological. So everything should be electronically dealt with and possible. We don't have to ask the Chief Justice for a warrant if a witness lives abroad or is in some other country and wants to testify via video link. I think issues like taking evidence on commission and preservation of evidence should now be such that you record it electronically for the person for it to be played. You know, I think we should introduce more technology. We should also, I think, introduce soft copies of things. We should have voice to text so that we can have people, you know, so that we can have the trials going faster.
90 minutes of comprehensive news, planned, prepared, delivered on your Simply the Best on Radio Starr 103.5 FM. Many thanks for your company. On behalf of the entire production team led by Echo Annan, Prince Essien, Benjamin Saki, of whom today is his birthday. Benjamin, from the entire team, we say happy birthday to you, and to our production support guys. Thank you so much for listening. This has been StarrToday. My name is Emmanuel. Agyabeng. Until another time, have a wonderful evening.